Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time to be here today. I'm Dan Robinson. I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees at Mesa, and we're very excited about this event today. And as you all know, it takes a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of hours that have led up to developing the Unconventional Energy Center for CMU. And we're very proud that we can put ourselves on the map as really what our vision is to become the epicenter of energy development in western Colorado. Today we have the pleasure of having many of the recipients of the first grants. We're at the point now where we can begin to see the implementation of some great ideas and innovation in the field of energy. So I'd like to introduce Tim Foster so that Tim can begin to tell us more about the recipients and let them describe their projects to us. Thanks, Tim.
Well, and welcome, and thank you all for being here today. I think this press conference, as Derek has been working on this for a year, really, literally. And so, Derek, for all your hard work, we should give you a round of applause. Not that you need to be reminded, but this effort really started with a $1.6 million federal mineral lease grant that we then matched at the university for a sum total of $3.2 million, which then is an endowment and over time will allow us to repeat these sorts of things every year and maybe more than once a year. We have two committees, the Applied Research Committee, and with us is Eric Ward, and thank you, Eric, for your hard work on that, and Tim Brower, and Tim, there you are. Thank you also for going through all of the various applications. And then we have the Workforce Development and Curriculum Enhancement Committee, and Brigitta, thank you for serving on that, as well as Nina, I think you're, Anderson, you're on that as well. And so thank you all for both serving there and culling through all of these applications. We have 11 members on each of those two committees, and so thank you again for spending your time. So assuming a 5% return on our funds, which we think is a fairly conservative assumption, this endowment will earn an average of about $160,000 a year, and we'll try and give those monies away as quickly as we can, but only to deserving applicants. In our initial round, we received, 8 proposals, Derek, and we in fact decided to make 6 grants. But before we get to the fun part about handing out big, oversized checks, David, I think we're going to let you make some comments. So, David Ludlam.
Thank you to Chairman Robinson and President Foster, to the Technical and Education Committee members. I wanted to say at the outset that for me, this is personal. As my alumni status here is preceded by my parents attending this institution, and on my wife's side, I think they're up to the 4th generation of graduates from here. So for me, this is very personal. It's an opportunity for me to parlay my professional role into something that gives back to an institution that means a great deal to me. I just wanted to say that when you step back and you look at federal mineral leasing on public lands, there's a really unique public benefit that communities and state and federal governments receive because it's the public that owns the minerals when they're leased. And when you look at how those monies are distributed, when a company goes out and leases federal lands on the Forest Service or BLM, 51% of that goes back to the federal government and is spent by the federal government. 49% goes back to the state, and of that, it's distributed to higher education, it's distributed to water conservation efforts, and then municipal local governments. My role on the Mesa County Federal Mineral Lease District is to try to maximize the amount of revenue that the county receives from that pot of revenue. And I think we were very transparent in how we went about the grant cycle. We have a number of entities, including the Grand Junction Economic Partnership, the Grand Junction Chamber, just to name 2 of dozens of entities that were at the table writing the Mesa County Economic Development Plan. And when we as the NFML board stepped back and said, how should we attribute these dollars? How should we spread them out in the community in a way that's equitable and in a way that's supported by the community? We turned to that plan because hundreds of people were involved in writing it, and it reflected, we thought, the best use of the money supported by the most constituencies in the valley. And from that came a number of grant proposals that we thought were valuable, but the grant application creating this energy center, this unconventional energy center, we thought was an unconventional project that would provide revenues and funding and benefits to offset energy impacts to our community in perpetuity. And what an important distinction there, perpetuity. You can go out and you can spend money on a project that might provide a short-term benefit, and we need to do that. There's critical needs out there. But you can also have vision, like this university and its leadership has had, and you can put money into an endowment that's going to be contributing back to the community for generations, and that's what we chose to do. Thank you for inviting me on behalf of the entire FML board. I'm representing them today as well, but couldn't be more excited to hear about the projects that the university is funding. Thank you for having me.
So now what we're going to do is allow each of the grant recipients, we'll cut right to the chase, to come up and talk to us about exactly what you're going to be doing with your respective grants. Diane, briefly. And we will hold on and let others exemplify or demonstrate to you what brief stands for.
That's why I'm at the back of the line. I get it.
That's why Janet's right behind you, so she can make sure that she can cut you off if we have to. Now, we're going to start with Dr. Frank Custis, who's going to talk to us about nano coatings, Inc. So, Dr. Custis.
Yes, I'm really pleased to be here for this award. What we proposed in our program was to develop some wear-resistant coatings that will be applied to pump parts used in hydraulic fracturing to increase the erosion resistance and lifetime of these parts. Currently, the drilling operators have to replace a lot of these parts after a one-day shift, so it's a big cost. And if we can increase the lifetime of these parts, it will be a significant benefit for them.
And then if you want to pick up your check, you might want to stay up here, and we'll, Dr. Rex Cole, who's from our geology program. Dr. Cole?
Well, I'm going to bring up my cohort here. This is Dr. Bill Hood. He and I are co-investigators on our project. Anyway, Bill and I are both oil and gas types of folks before we came into academia. And so we're trying to use some of our geologic skills to help from the geologic point of view of hopefully enhancing gas and maybe gas liquids production out of the Manka Shale. So I'm the second author on our proposal, so I'll let Bill here tell you the details.
Well, first I'd like to thank the Unconventional Energy Center for giving us this grant and allowing us to proceed. It's very much appreciated. Our thrust here is to try to generate interest in the Manka Shale on this side of the mountains. On the other side of the mountains, there are rock units that are equivalent to parts of the Manka Shale that are being productive for gas and oil, and we'd like to bring that over on this side. And what we have to do is to demonstrate that the Manka Shale has zones in it that are brittle and that it has organic material enough to generate gas and oil. And I'm going to work on the brittle part by using the X-ray diffractometer to identify the minerals in the shale that make it brittle. And Rex is going to look at a proxy for organic material, the uranium content in the shale, to try to figure out which parts are organically rich and might be productive. And I know that the major companies have the money to do this themselves, but the small companies don't. So what we want to do is get this information generated and present it to the public, that is the geological and oil industry public, so that the smaller companies can generate some interest over here and hopefully get some unconventional energy going on this side of the mountains. And thank you very much.
A woman who needs very little introduction, Dr. Teresa Coons from the John McConnell Math and Science Center. Dr. Coons.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this morning and to be able to thank the Unconventional Energy Center for the money that we're going to receive to fund what I think is a really unique program for high school students at the John McConnell Math and Science Center. This program will be in its third year. This funding will allow us to have a third year of our program that was initially started with a generous grant from Chevron. And the program's, the idea is that we take high school students from all over Mesa County and bring them together to study the science behind all of our energy resources and the politics and the policies and the cultural and social and economic impacts of the decisions we make as citizens around energy, science, and policy. This is a year-long program. The students receive credit from CMU for attending the program, and we've been able to partner with a lot of local organizations, industry groups, CMU, and just have had a lot of support from our community. So thank you for allowing us to continue this program for a third year and creating a new generation of high school students who have a better understanding of energy science and policy for our country. Thank you.
I was watching Tim Casey to see if he thinks that science and public policy go hand in hand, but Dr. Sally Potter McIntyre also with our geology department, and I need to note that her proposal was interesting enough. The American Shale Oil AMSO organization also has provided about $4,000 to help fund this project. So.
Well, first I'd like to start off by thanking both AMSO and the Unconventional Energy Center. And our project that I designed was to look at some Jurassic Age rocks around the Grand Junction area and look at them to better understand fluid, rock, and biological interaction, so that we can, this has application for carbon capture and sequestration, as well as enhanced oil recovery, as well as better understanding these processes of hydrocarbons interacting in shales to better understand unconventional energy resources. Additionally, this project is designed to train at least three students for careers in the energy industry. And toward that end, we are also having a component of education and public outreach where we will go out to I'll have these students go out to the high schools, the local high schools, and tell them about careers in geoscience and get them interested in the geology program at Mesa here. So, and if you're wondering who this is, this is Marisa Boris, and she's one of my students, and she's working on a piece to better understand the depositional environment of one of the rock units around here that hasn't been very well studied. So.
And of course, Diane Schwinke with the Grand Junction Chamber, and she's doing the Young Entrepreneur Academy, right? Yep. Diane?
Thanks, Tim. And I also want to applaud the university for embracing the Mesa County Economic Development Plan and taking on what has to be the most challenging goal that we established, which was to become an epicenter for energy innovation and business development. That's a tall order, and what it looks like, a lot of people had no idea when we started the plan. So this is the first concrete step that we've seen that direction. The Young Entrepreneurs Academy I think, has a direct correlation in terms of, as we look at the energy industry and the Unconventional Fuels Center, we've already seen a lot of innovation, technology advances that have happened in this area because of the existing companies and what they've been able to do with things like horizontal drilling, directional drilling, the bit remanufacturing that we're seeing Halliburton do. The Young Entrepreneurs Academy is going to be aimed at middle and high school students, and 24 of them will have the opportunity through a year-long program to actually develop their own businesses. And we're hoping to have a special emphasis on the energy sector of our economy through that instruction. But it will give these students the real life experience of creating their own businesses, having to come up with an invention or a product, having to develop business plans, having to ask for funding. And so there will be this opportunity for them from various sectors, from arts to sciences to come out of that with a very good understanding of what it is to actually create a business and sell something, whether it's your services or products. And we hope that will spread through the entire economy, but with special emphasis on the energy sector. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Janet Rowland, who is representing the CMU Center for Local Government Energy and Environment Symposium, right? Janet?
I'm happy to be here today to represent several entities. The Center for Local Government here at Colorado Mesa University under the Rediford Institute in partnership with West Slope Koga and Garfield County are hosting a Energy and Environment Symposium in May. It's a two-day event targeted to local government officials, so both elected officials as well as appointed and staff. Day one is really focused on Energy 101, so from the wellhead to the burner tip with the natural gas extraction process, what's the science behind that? And we'll include a equipment inspection and fracking demonstration on day one. And day two is all about policies and regulations that are already in place, both at the federal and state level. We'll have the head of the Department of Natural Resources and the head of the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission, as well as the head of the Utah Oil and Gas Commission here to talk to the local elected folks about the regulatory environment that already exists. And I think the 2 days will be a great opportunity for those local government officials in helping them in the policy making that they do. Thank you.